Chicago is experiencing difficult times. Not all of Chicago, but very specific certain parts like the west side of the city where I grew up and the south side of the city. These neighborhoods are historically impoverished communities that lack resources, guidance, and leadership. It is these very same communities where gangs are the family of choice and where gun violence runs rampant. It's these communities that still have schools similar to the ones that I went to in the 90s that were underfunded and lacking in the barest of necessities, like up-to-date textbooks and toilet paper in the restrooms. These are the same communities where I grew up in the 90s hearing gunshots outside of my window in the middle of the night while rival gangs would run through our alleyways. It's these communities that the youth experience hardships that people could never imagine. They're merely looking to survive. They can't think about their future when they realize they might not even last the year. The kids in these communities are hungry. They're hungry for food, they're hungry for guidance, they're hungry for knowledge, and most importantly, they're hungry for purpose. Yet the world turns their back on them. So I can't judge the young people involved in these situations. I know their plight all too well. Most of the people involved in gangs that are perpetuating the gun violence are not bad. Some are, but not all of them. They're being brought up in bad circumstances with no real options to overcome their hardships. There are many organizations working to help cure violence in Chicago. Those within the communities are often those who are working directly to attempt to change the norms. It's parents, families, elders, and some community leaders who are coordinating to launch programs to keep youth off the streets by providing alternative opportunities and working to de-escalate violence within the gang communities. These are also organizations that are working to help people who have lost loved ones due to gun violence, to help them overcome their tragedies and create positive change in their communities. Elizabeth Ramirez co-founded Parents for Peace and Justice after her son Harry, DJ, Rodriguez was gunned down at his own 23rd birthday in 2011. Nearly 6 years later, his case remains unsolved. Elizabeth wants peace for the streets of Chicago. She works with a group of mothers who are each overcoming the loss of their children to gun violence. Those involved in the organizations are parents, siblings, family, friends, and neighbors seeking justice for those taken away from them through violence. But most importantly, they're fighting for peace in the streets of Chicago. They're an organization based in Humboldt Park, but they're advocates for anyone affected by violence in Chicago. These are their stories.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Ramirez. I'm the co-founder for Parents for Peace and Justice. I lost my son, it's going to be 6 years, October 23rd of 2017 at his own birthday party. He gave his life for 2 other lives. Parents for Peace and Justice, we do visuals, we do marches, and we also try to work with the children that want a better life. We get summer programs for them, letting them know that we love them, that we're here for them, and we're also here for the moms, family members that have lost a loved one to the violence. It's about being that voice for your child, for justice and for peace also. Because we're not only being a voice for our children, we're being a voice also for the children that are here. They want to live, they want a better city, a better community, to be able to enjoy life. My son was turning 23 years old. They did a surprise birthday party for him. As he was in the dining room, he thought that someone had firecrackers. As he looked towards the kitchen, there was a guy with a mask shooting, not directly at him, but shooting crazy. My son, what he did was, he pushed his cousin back and her son back. He received not one, but five bullets. As a mother, I've been out there trying to get justice for my son. I know who did this to my son. Unfortunately, nobody's saying I heard him, and we just need someone to say, he told me that he did it, and everybody's scared.
I am Kobe's mom, Kobe Esther. My name is Diana, and Kobe's story is different because he wasn't gunned down. He was chased down by a group of guys in some vehicle. And Friday marked 5 years that Kobe was murdered. It's hard for me to say anniversary or even anniversary. There's just certain words I'm not comfortable with yet, but Friday, August 25th was 5 years and his case is unsolved. Kobe's case was classified as a hit and run, although they know that he was chased down because there are witnesses, he wasn't alone. You know, after raising 2 strong black good men in Chicago, and you managed to get them out, Kobe wasn't a child. What I'm saying is we raised Kobe. He went to college. He graduated. He came home. He survived his teenage years, which a lot of people don't think their kids gonna survive, but he did all those things and he was still murdering, you know, minding his own business. And when people say to me, oh, he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, that really angers me because this is the United States of America. He paid his taxes, he worked. He should have been allowed to ride a bus, get off the bus, and come home to his son. In the beginning, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know of any organization, or I was in my own little world bubble, but after desperation, I started to fight on my own, and then after a couple of years, I met Elizabeth, Parents for Peace and Justice. I became a part of Purpose Over Pain. They fight, you know, they're against gun violence, and I just knew I had to do something for my son, and I knew I had to figure out why we have so many murders in Chicago that has gone unsolved.
Hi, my name is Millie Burgos. This is my daughter, Alexandra Monty Burgos. Just like the mom of Kobe, it doesn't matter the kind of violence, how your child was taken away. They were taken away purposely. It wasn't from a sickness. It wasn't from natural causes. They were taken away by some coward because a life, rather, your child was beaten brutally. Unfortunately, that's what happened to her. And many of our children, their life was taken by gun violence. And I'm here because I was always there for my children, for my daughter and my son. And I'll continue to be there for my child. My daughter Alexandra had just graduated from high school. She was attending Wilbur-Wright College. She was a freshman. Her goal and dream was to be a social worker, to work with the Cook County Juvenile Detention Center. Many people would tell her that that didn't bring money. And for her, that didn't matter. To her, it was to accomplish her dream and to help others. That was really what she wanted to do. At 18 years old, on October 19, 2014, some coward killed her with a stray bullet. Came from a window from the outside. She was doing her sisterly duty. Her and her brother were spiritually now still close. And she was picking up her younger brother. And as she was waiting, a bunch of shots from the outside came in through windows and killed her instantly and struck her on the head and other places. Till now, I just still don't know. And it takes your soul out. But I just thank God. I have to say that God has been my strength, and without that spiritual comfort, I honestly wouldn't know what I would do. And this is not a group, this is not an organization that no one would want to be in, because these are mothers and fathers and grandmothers that's raised their child because of gun violence and violence. A violent act is a violent act, no matter how it's come to your loved one. And never in a million years would I think that something like this would happen here. And it's not our fault. Something like this happened, and it shouldn't have happened. There's too many guns in the streets, and something needs to be done about that. There is too many lives taken away, and not just, as I said, because of gun violence, but just violence in general. My daughter wanted to make a difference, and I was there while she was here, and I'm going to be there while she's in heaven, because I'm going to be there for her in every other voices that they need, because someone has to say something, someone has to stand up. Because if we don't, as a community, as a unity, as mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers, aunts and uncles, they say that it takes a village to raise a child, then come on, what happened to that saying? Because the code of silence, if it does take a village to raise a child, then why is so many people silent when they see something? Why is it that they can speak when they have to speak? These are lives. My daughter, her son, her daughter and son. These are human beings that were taken away from this society. Where did it go wrong? What's happening? Everybody needs to get together. There needs to be answers. Political leaders need to get together. There needs to be more tough laws for gun violence and gun laws. We seriously need to get together. It's about our voice. It's about our children, and not just our children. It's about other kids, other children, other families, because it's just not about stopping, but it's also about preventing. There needs to be something so our kids can live, our families can live.
My name is Delphine Cherry. I'm the mother of two that was gunned down. She's like, I'm the president of the Written Campaign for the Chicago chapter. Thaisa was killed in 1992 by a stray bullet. She went to the theater with some friends like most teenagers do. As she was leaving the theater, some young men got to fighting. One woman got a gun and tried to shoot the other one, and she took a straight bullet to the head. The young man that killed my daughter was only 14. He was given a gun by an adult. David Moore served 20 years in jail. He was released in 2012. Thaisa wanted to be a nurse. She was 16 when she was murdered. She was more like my co-parenting because I worked. She took care of her younger siblings. She's terribly missed. In the midst of all that, I was pregnant with my son when Thaisa was murdered. So 20 years later, my son Tyler, Randall, went to work one day, came home, got dressed to go to a party. He was gunned down in front of my home. Tyler was 20 at the time of his death, and his murder is still unsolved. So I asked myself, I'm a decent mother, probation officer, raised my kids right, and while they're deceased now, my first thought was to trace the gun, which I did. The second thought is why, who, when, and where. I know who killed my son. Police know who killed my son. They just not done anything about it. The night my son was murdered, where I live at, it was a 911 call made. The police still hadn't got there. That troubled me. That made me want to work harder. And my goal and my best is to make sure no other parent has to go through what I went through. Beating the curve, trying to figure out why cops are not doing their job, why young men and women are killing each other. None of my kids were in the game. And most of the kids here were not in the game. It wasn't about being in the game, it was about who you are, what's your status. I get up every morning and find a way to fight. I started the TY Foundation in honor of Thaisa and Tyler. And my goal is to make sure mothers have the necessary things they need before this happened and after it happened. When we're fighting this battle, I think that we don't or shouldn't have to fight. I have to be a voice for my 2 children. And I have to be a voice for everybody that's in this room. Because if we continue to let evil spurt us, then it's gonna always happen. You know, she said that people don't want to talk. You're right, people don't want to talk. So we got to engage on how we can make people talk.
My name is Alice Thomas Norris, and this is my daughter, Rolanda Lakeisha Marshall. She was born 1/8/79, and she was shot on 8/28/93, and she was on life support for 9 days, so I felt sometimes like she had 2 deaths. Her official death is 9/6/93. The day that she was killed, we as a family, we had went out, we had did a wedding. That was one of the things that I do. I was a wedding coordinator, also a wedding photographer. I did weddings. And then I was bringing them in to help me. She was a singer, so she had sung at a wedding that day. And when we came home, because the wedding was early, we came home, we were all tired and sleepy. So she laid down and went to sleep because I think she had a headache, and then my husband and I, we both laid down and we went to sleep. And then later on, she did get up. My other 2 children, they had already went outside. And then later on, she got up and got dressed and put her clothes on. And she didn't say, well, Mom, I'm going outside, but I knew she was going outside. So she went outside, and she was in the living room when I woke up, saw her getting ready to go out. And she just sort of looked at me and she shook her head because we had some kind of turmoil going on in the home that day between my husband and I. We were having a little fight. So I knew she was worried about that. But anyway, while she was outside, her friend convinced her to walk down to the restaurant with her to get something to eat. And they walked down to the restaurant, which was probably about almost 3 blocks from our home. I lived on the northwest side of Chicago. And so later on, her friend called me. She said, Mom, Keisha been shot. That's what we call her, Keisha. That's her name, Rolanda Lakeisha. Her father named her Rolanda and I named her Lakeisha. And I said, don't play with me. Why are you doing it? So then Toya, her name was Toya Davis. So she started crying and she said, Keisha been shot. And I don't know why I didn't drive my car down there, but I knew I had to, I had still held on my clothes that I had to go to the wedding because I didn't get undressed because I said we was gonna go back out anyway. And I knew that I had to get my purse because my insurance card was in there. And I knew that I needed my insurance card to go to the hospital. And that's one of the things that I learned over the years, some of the unfairness of how we, the black and brown people, are treated, in these institutions. So I knew I had to have my insurance card, so I grabbed my purse and I ran down to the restaurant. And when I got there, they were bringing her out on the stretcher. And I kept saying, I want to, that's my daughter, let me go to her. Police was holding me back, they wouldn't let me go to her. But the thing when I got down there where she was shot in that restaurant, she was sitting in the window. And it was a young man, and there was 2 young men in it, my understanding. And that they probably was the one that was being shot at. And the bullet, she was sitting in the window like this. So the bullet hit her in the head right here, behind her ear. It went across her brainstem, severed her brainstem. And I think, when I think about it, I think it's like the police wouldn't let me go to her because they knew that she was dead. But what I noticed, she was shot with like an assault weapon, a 9mm gun. And they sprayed the window like this. I saw all those bullet holes in the window. I saw bullet casing laying on the ground. And I'm thinking, I'm just looking at police holding me, and I'm just looking at all these cases on the ground. And I'm thinking like, why would somebody have a gun that shoot that many times? It didn't make any sense to me. I didn't even understand, why these kind of guns are an ordinary citizen. I was like, those guns are used like for war. I'm not for war, but I understand that we don't need war, but we're gonna have war because, we don't know how to sit down and talk to each other. So the police kept telling me, well, we're gonna take you to the hospital because I was gonna go back home and get my car. And then they said, it was hospital about maybe 6 or 7 blocks from where she was shot. But they took her to another hospital, which was like about maybe 4 miles, because they took her to Mount Sinai. But at the time, I didn't know Mount Sinai was a trauma center, and that's why they couldn't take her to West Suburban. And the police was saying like, well, I don't know where Mount Sinai is. I said, well, hell, I know where it's at. Let's go. They went down North Avenue, all the way to California. No lights on. I'm trying to figure out, why are you all driving so slow? Why are you not doing this, blah, blah. We got to the hospital, and by that time, like the doctor said, looked at her, they sat there and waited, and they came out and talked to us. And the doctor was saying that there was no hope, that she was, while she was shot in the head, she was brain dead. And that, it was probably, couldn't that happen. And I said like, no, I want you to do everything that you can to take care of. Rolanda, she's 14 years old, very healthy, nothing wrong with her. And they were saying like, her brain was swelling. So they put on this machine, it's a brain machine that measures the waves of the brain. And they were saying it was like 25, 30. And they were saying like, well, if it gets down under 25, then she may be slave. I sat there and I watched the machine all night. That machine got up to like 125. And I kept saying, all of my relatives was there. They were praying, we were praying. And for 9 days, she lingered on life support. And I had just came out the business world about a year earlier, and I went into nursing, healthcare. So I knew what kind of life she would have had if she had stayed on. Machine would keep her heart beating indefinitely. I wanted my child back like she were whole, vivacious. Rolanda was a straight A student, most of her 8 years in elementary school. She was a singer, she was a dancer, a cook, a writer, a teacher. She had did all these things. She had went to the University of Chicago in their scholars program in the 6th grade. She went to Northeastern University in their gifted program in the 7th grade. She went to the DeSable Museum in their gifted program in the 8th grade. So I knew that she had talent, and she was going to have a very productive life. And to lose her in the manner that she was killed, they said that maybe one little gang member was shooting at another one. Either they was trying to kill the young man, may have had some altercation with them earlier today. But anyway, the police came and talked to me that night at the house, a detective. And you guys think they treat y'all bad. He sat there and he told me, he said, well, we'll get somebody, but if somebody do something, then they may say, well, I know who killed that little girl. So I was saying like, you mean to tell me they gotta kill 2 more people, 3 more people then you're gonna catch them. I didn't understand that. You know, what kind of sense does that make? I would think that the police, the community and everything would want to catch the person that's doing this kind of stuff right away. But he was saying like, no, we'll wait. You know, to me it was like, little, we'll wait. If he do something else, then, you know, they may roll over on each other, you know, like they snitch on each other. That's what it means. So I'm saying, you know, like over the years I learned, you know, like, and then what I realized that night, on that floor, everybody was a GSW. That means gunshot wound on that floor. I walked the hall and I looked at everybody's chart, and everybody's chart said a GSD, you know, because I'm a nurse, it said GSW. And I'm saying like, man, no wonder the police, they overwork, they don't have enough time to even investigate. Because as soon as he came in and investigated my daughter's case, or tried to investigate as much as he can, he had to go to another one. It was another, because they all came to Mount Sinai. They all was GSWs. And I was saying like, man, that's why they can't, you know, effectively catch the criminals, you know.
This is my son, Christopher Johnson. He was 22 years old when his life was taken due to senseless gun violence, April 11, 2015, sitting in his car with an acquaintance. Christopher was a very hardworking, good-hearted, loving, handsome, biracial son of mine that worked every day, that had a very good heart, and was not involved in any gang. Has 3 other siblings, an older brother, a younger brother, and a younger sister. And now he's gone. I don't have justice. Christopher never made it home that night. And he was sitting in his car that he had just purchased, a BMW that he saved up for and gave all his income tax return money for this BMW, and he was sitting in the car with an acquaintance, and 2 cowards with guns approached the car and ricocheted the car completely with bullets, striking my son multiple times, and the acquaintance ducked and didn't even get hurt or struck by a bullet. And my son, I was told, said he saw a light, tried to drive 3 blocks, and then the acquaintance, while sitting in the car, drove my son to Jackson Park Hospital, which was the closest hospital. And he just about very, very shortly after that was unfortunately pronounced dead. And unfortunately, the mother of Walt, the acquaintance in the car, moved her son out of the neighborhood in the middle of the night because he had a background in history and was all in the game. My son was not. My son's future in life was taken. My son will never get married. My son will never have kids. I will never have grandchildren. His future was taken. And so now there's a hole that I'm left with to live for the rest of my life that's in my heart that nobody or no one can ever replace. And I will forever be Christopher's voice. And try to do the best that I can possibly do with all the breath and every breath I have in my body to fight for justice for him and be with these other moms that do not want to be a part of this, that lives are affected forever in the whole families. And it's unfair and it's very unfortunate because there's not enough people that are speaking, and the police and people and members of the community where these innocent lives were taken, they need to speak up and put themselves in our shoes. Because nobody's immune, and it could be your loved one next. So they need to speak up, take it seriously, because gun violence is a national health epidemic. And that should be important and that should matter because all lives does matter. Black, white, purple, polka dot. My son was biracial and his life was taken by 2 cowards to gun violence. I've been to Washington, D.C. twice. Lobbying and trying to get justice for my son. I will continue to. I hang out reward flyers every year. on the day that his life was taken at 22 years old. This should not have happened. I shouldn't be sitting here in this chair because my son is not here. It was taken for no reason. He was innocent. So I'll be here as long as I have breath in my body to fight for justice for my son. And even though it wasn't a high-profile case, it was my son. And it mattered. So all these detectives that have all these high caseloads and more needs to be done. There's more money. Where is it going? It needs to help to fight gun violence. They just need to put themselves in our shoes just for a day. Just try to. I know you can't possibly fathom our life and how we live every day like this because it's like a roller coaster. It's up and down. It's difficult to get out of bed every day, but you have to keep going because you can't give up because you have to be the voice for your child. We just need more help. Please, we need more people to care. We need more police to solve these unsolved cases. We need the people and members in the community to open up their mouths and say something. They can call. They can be anonymous. They can call the 800 number, the tip line. They can call the churches that are on some of the reward flyers, like I have on mine, St. Sabina Church. If you don't want to call the area central police station, you can remain anonymous. But we need some help because no other mother needs to be a part of this club and lose their child to senseless gun violence.
This is my baby Veronica. I have 5 girls. She was the baby. Me thinking I was so lucky just to have girls and I wouldn't have to worry about this gun violence and killing because it only happened to boys. But I guess that's not true. My baby was killed May 28th on Lakeshore Drive. Of all places, wonderful Lakeshore Drive. A car drove up beside them. There were 6 people in the car she was in. There were 5 plus her 6. And a car just drove up next to them and just started shooting. Shot my baby 3 times. The driver got shot once in the arm. If it was meant for him, why did he die? Why did my baby have to die? They drove her to the hospital. And all the police did was handcuff her to the car and keep asking her name instead of taking her inside the hospital. I seen a video because they were taking a video to show me that the police wouldn't help her. And her telling them, just help me, I can't breathe anymore. And they said they couldn't take her in there, that they were waiting for the ambulance to take her to a different hospital. They could at least came out and helped her, but they didn't. They knocked on my door and told me, you know Veronica? I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, well, who is she? I was like, my daughter. Well, she may have been shot. I was like, may have been shot. And they're like, well, you just need to get to the hospital. My other girls, they don't care about life anymore. They run around in cars all day. They don't care if they get shot. They're like, maybe they could and they could be with their little sister. It's hard to live now. I wake up every morning saying, why am I still here? Why don't you just let me die already? I just want to be with my little girl. She was only a freshman in high school. Only 15. And the guy in the back seat sees who shot her. And he doesn't tell me anything. And I keep telling her friends, why do you keep going out there and driving around with these guys? They don't care who they are. They're going to shoot you next. You need to stop. Veronica lost her life for being in the car with other people. I just want my baby back.
My name is Irma Erwan.
Jr. He was murdered on September 7, 2016. He came home he worked in second shift. And he get up early that night. And I know his friends. He texts me, he calling me, he let me know where he doing, where he going. We have a really great relationship. And he went with his friends, eat, play basketball because he loved basketball. He attended the San Benedict High School. He graduated and he wanted first in high school. He wanted to be physical therapy. That night, it's hard for me. He texts me. He said, I look for him. He told my mom, don't worry, I have a ride. And I say, are you sure I can go to pick you up? He said, no, I have a ride. I'm sure. Don't worry, I'm fine. I said, okay. Did you need something? Call your dad. He's almost home. He's on his way. He said, okay, Mom, I know. We come back from Michigan because I have my daughter, Annette. She's in college in Michigan, college. My older one is 26. She's in Nor'easter. And I was tired. Every night, I'm waiting for my son. I never fell asleep. Then I need to go outside and look for him, like the mom said. We go to look for him. But that night I was tired and he texts me like, Mom, I see you home soon. I'm on my way home. And he never get home. They shot him 4 houses from my house. He was a really, not because he's my son, because I hear all the time, it's like people is really mean. Because sometimes they say, oh, you let your kids doing whatever they wanted, and then when something's happened, you go on to the TV and holding the picture from the graduation and say, oh, he was my angel, he was a good guy, and they go out with the wrong people. And I'm tired to hear that. That's why I'm here, because we need help. We passed flyers Saturday, and some lady come to me and say, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. I feel so bad because only this is getting worse. It's black and brown people is getting killed. And I feel so bad about that kind of person talking in that way. And I tell her, like, I hope you never, God bless you, and I hope you never go in my shoes walking through this. I love my son. I did everything for him. Maybe I can do more. That's why I'm here, for support all the moms. This is his story. He was really worried for my little one because they'll always be together like a twins. Our family is destroyed now. My daughters had a hard time to be here. To finish college because he was the glue of the family. He played on Riviera Park all the time. I can tell you the names of his friends. I know every place because he told me everything. They took my father, they took my best friend, they took my brother and my son because he was everything for me. He was my best friend too. It's true the police need to put more attention because in his case, they know who's there. Because they say they have really good videos about the faces. But they say because they shooting him and letting him and jump to the highway, he's shooting again. The police catching them over there, but the process is too slow. And they didn't go out. They're now walking free, 5 or 4 guys. And see, they cannot put it back to jail because they need the name. And they waiting for they can make some mistake. You know what kind of mistake? Destroying more families.
This is my son Hector Javier Ladillo Jr. We called him Coelum. Like Irma, there wasn't anything I wouldn't do for my son. From the time he was a baby, all the way to when God called him home. I was on my knees for that kid because I knew I always told him you're going to do something great. And I thank God that God gave me the opportunity to see him become the young man that he did. The father of 3 children, had a great job, bought his first home. Not perfect, but he was not in a gang. He was a good provider. And yeah, a little rough around the edges, but man, did we love each other. There was nothing my son couldn't tell me, ever. He was killed in front of his father's shop. There's many stories, it's unsolved. I know that what I have to do is I have to, like my pastor told me on Sunday, you gotta give it to God. I've been carrying all the theories and even the dream that I had 2 weeks before he was killed, where I told him that I saw him being killed in front of his father's shop. And to be careful drinking, because he loved hanging out there. They would drink, and I told him in the dream, it was like he was going to be caught off guard. And my husband had a similar dream too, where he saw an ambush. He didn't see my son, it was him in the dream. And that in itself torments me. I really can't even tell his story because it's almost like it's unwritten. You know, it's almost like my spirit knows already, you know. And so I decided the only way that I can be strong, because my husband's been my voice for the last year. Because that was my heart. I'm a worshiper. I worship the Lord. That's what I've done for 16 years. And somehow when this happened, I lost my voice. I just couldn't praise anymore. I couldn't uplift the same as writing. So if it's okay, instead of going into everything that I want to say about my son, I want to read the first excerpt to a poetry book that I'm writing for my son. And the title of the book is called Unexpected, Cries from a Mother's Heart. And this is his story. Unexpected, I woke up that Saturday morning, glanced through my phone and found those unforgettable messages that would soon turn my world upside down. I know that I wasn't ready to hear them say to me that your life had been taken that morning from a shooter who shot you while you stood in front of the shop from Manali across the street. I wonder if your last thoughts were of me, the talks that we would always have, the talks where you told me not to worry, and the talks where I would repeat, son, watch your back. All the words that we had left to be spoken, all the love that we had left to give. You can now only send messages from heaven, or when you speak to me in my dreams. I was always your biggest cheerleader. I believed in all you would be. I told you on many occasions, son, how proud you made me. If only the shooter would have thought for a moment before the trigger was pulled that you had so many people who loved you and who are now only left here to mourn. You had so many dreams before you, you had so much left to give, but now your dreams are left to your children to fulfill in their lifetime ahead. Son, my life isn't the same without you. I am so lost in this abyss that's called life, a life where deceit is truth and justice is scarce, a place where hatred and killing is a normal part of life. I pray to the Father daily. In his compassion, he would grant me one wish. I want the shooter to see the pain that he's caused. I want to hear he turn himself in. My heart still beats daily. It beats as if it knows that you're no longer here. We had an amazing bond, and we have an amazing bond, mother and son, who shared a special love that has no end. I cry aloud from the depths of my spirit as I try to make sense of your death. But no one really understands, son, that I'm numb and I can't catch my breath.
Well, this is my son, Daedulus Rodriguez. My name is Sylvia. My son was murdered on January 25th, 2016 at 4:51 a.m. I'm probably going to be all over the place. Thaddeus was my difficult child. Thaddeus is one of 6 children. He was 25. My babies are between 22 and 31. And he was a difficult one. He liked to keep his mom and dad on their toes. I raised Thaddeus by myself till he was 2. And my husband came back into my life. He is our oldest daughter's father, so known each other for years. He raised Thaddeus, helped me raise Thaddeus since he was 2 years old. Thaddeus was difficult starting at 2, but along with Thaddeus and all my other kids, I was very blessed that I was able to be a stay-at-home mom because my husband was able to work and support us. I was always at the schools. They knew who Mrs. Gelvin was because I needed to see what my kiddos were doing. We did the homework around the table. I needed to question the parents. When the kids wanted to go somewhere, I need to know mom and dad. I need to know who's going to be there. What you guys are going to do. There is no spending the night. You're coming home. Junior never understood that. I told him I had to make sure they were safe at all times. And, I drove them crazy, but that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to be their friend. I was their mom. Thaddeus loved me very much. As he got older, he would still do that. All his friends would come over, my other kids' friends would come over, and I would hear their stories of my mom's at the bar, my mom's here, your mom goes on Mother's Sundays with you guys, I want to go with you guys. And I would take them. So I was home with them. I did everything I was supposed to do, at least I think so. I worked in an emergency room for over 9 years, and I held so many kids' hands that were shot. And I was just hear the moms come in, and I'm like, oh my God. And Thaddeus was always in my head. I was always worried. Every time the siren would go off and they said, we have a GSW coming in, I had 2 friends, please go make sure that's not my baby. They'd come get me, I'd get prepared to go in and help to take care of these poor kids that came in there. I won't know what to do. I would hear these mothers scream and scream, and I would take off running because I didn't know what to do. And then it happened to my baby. And I told him I'd go to gangbangers' funerals to look for my son, to pull him out. And he's like, Mama, this isn't the place for you. I'm like, this isn't the place for you. I'm like, do you hear that, Mom? Do you want to hear Mommy like that? I said, I totally can't lose you. He goes, Mama, nobody could ever hurt me. I'm your brown boy. I'm always gonna be okay. I went everywhere to look for him. I was never that mom, not my baby, not my son. I took Junior in if he did something wrong. I walked him in, and he's like, Mom, I'm your son. How can you do that to your son? I'm like, it's easier for me to be your friend than it is to do this, Daddy. I'm doing it because you need him. You're a good person deep down. Because my son chose. He chose, and I will tell you that I found a letter after he died and he left for me. And said, Mama, everything I did was because I wanted to, and I made bad decisions, and it wasn't your fault. He goes, please, I'm sorry. This is so hard because I don't know what to do. I can't fix it, he's gone. But it was so hard. It's just so hard because all of your children are gone and they were such good people. And my son was really rough around the edges. But he didn't deserve to die. He didn't deserve to die. He went on Facebook right before he died and he told people, if I ever hurt you in any way, I'm sorry. And the pastor at his church came to me and said, Mrs. Galvin, Daddy just came to me and said he was coming back home. He was coming back to church. He didn't get a chance to